Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about classes in Python. So classes are primarily come from the object-oriented paradigm or way of programming. So you might be asking, what is object-oriented programming? What are classes and why they're important to me? So if you were to think about just a general way that you write a script in Python, it might be step by step, almost like using a baking or cooking recipe. So if line 1 happens, execute that, go to line 2, go to 3, go to 4. With object-oriented programming, it's just a different way of thinking. There's also other paradigms like functional programming, which I'll talk about in a future video. But with object-oriented programming, the main benefits are organizing your code into like one simple module, having that be encapsulated and easy to use, and having a collection of not only like attributes, so properties for a certain object, but also built-in behaviors or methods that you can use from that class. So with a lot of the basic and grouped data structures within Python, you may have noticed that you have methods you can use for it. So for example, if you were using dictionaries or lists or strings, after an actual string value or list value or dictionary value, you can actually type in dot and then a built-in method because of classes. So classes are generally just an abstraction or blueprint for a thing. So it's not the actual thing itself, but let's say you were building a house, you have a blueprint of how you like to build it, but it's not actually in a house. It's not actually a house. Sorry. And or if you're a basketball coach, you have like a plan, X's and O's. Hey, move out to that part of the court, move to that part of the court, but it's not the actual execution of the plan. So classes are that plan, idea, or blueprint that you can use over and over again. So another great benefit is just not having to repeat your code. It's easily shareable. You can determine one area, like one modular area, where you can control state. You know where the properties are, you know where the behaviors are, and instead of each new object, let's say you wanted to create a class that is a dog or human or a car or maybe like a business. A lot of businesses, for example, have a lot of common attributes or behaviors, but there's like some leeway for its own modifications, its own uniqueness. But in general, there's like certain agreed upon principles, and that's why programmers use classes, because it makes it easier just to have some abstract idea we can all agree upon, and then for each new object we want to create, we can just deviate there. So, for example, let's just go with the business example. So, let's say I want to create a class called business. You would just use the keyword class right here, and then whatever you wanted to call right here. So I want to call my class business because I wanted to define some of what a business could be considered. And right now I just use this pass keyword just because I haven't written code yet. One of the great things about Python 3 is that you don't have to do this old method of actually importing object. Python 3 is smart enough to realize when you create a class, and it inherently does it there. So if I wanted to kind of have a general like architecture or abstraction for a business, like what do all businesses have? So all businesses have a name, all businesses have a CEO, more often than not. All businesses have a way of programming, doing their accounting. So all businesses may have an office or like an address. So there are certain things that are common to all businesses. This kind of back to the example of dogs. All dogs have a breed. They all have legs, or most of them do. They all have a certain fur color, maybe different owners. And essentially what we're doing with these objects is just defining those properties and behaviors that we want every single instance of the object to have. So back to this business, when you first initialize an object, you want certain characteristics or properties to be set. So in Python, you use this magic method, and this is also known as a dunder method, so the double underscore method in init. And then, let me just go right there. And then use self, and then whatever properties you want to initialize. So self is just a reference to business. So basically when I initialize this object, I'm saying, hey, I'm referring to myself when I set this up. And you'll see it down further below after I finish writing here. So let's just say name is one of the things that I want, like all common to all businesses, CEO. Let's say number of employees. Let's say website. And then finally for this, let's say type of business, type of biz. And then so with these, when you're constructing a new business object, you might have some variation, but something common to all businesses, you can actually set variables right here that regardless of who creates a new object, it's going to be common throughout. And you'll see this as soon as I finish coding this. So let's just say all businesses, they make money. Let's just say, let's not have that be the attribute. Maybe it's not true, but let's just set it to true. And then for this, self dot name equals name, self dot CEO equals CEO, self dot num of employees equals num of employees, self dot website equals website, and then finally self type of biz equals type of biz. So again, with this self keyword, all we're doing with this object is saying, hey, for this object business, its name property, take the input named name and then set it to this business's name. And you'll see it like once we actually create a class, how we actually take in the inputs and how it's set. And then finally, let's give out an actual behavior we want a business to do. So for this, let's say we can do name CEO and then self, and I just return I print our CEO is self dot CEO. And then let's say like you wanted to mutate like the actual state. So let's say that the CEO got fired and you want to name a new CEO. You can just create a new function, update CEO, self CEO, and then here self.CEO equals new CEO. So what I'm going to do here is just rename it so there's less confusion. So when a person calls this function, they're going to be able to update the CEO. So now that we have a pretty good idea of what a class would look like, so this is kind of like when you create any new business, this variable right here is going to be the same, like for each type of new object we create. And you'll see that like once we create these objects, we have our methods or behaviors common to all everything in this class. So let's just create two businesses, right? So let's say startup is one, and then in order to create a class, we just basically use the class name we created and open up in parentheses, and then we have to put in the variables that we want to set within this initialize dunder method. So with this, let's say we want the name to be XYC startup. We want the CEO to be Paulson, Paulmeyer. Let's have the number of employees be 10,000, and let's have the website be xyz.com, and type of biz, let's do startup or real estate. Okay, so now we've initialized class there, and you'll be able to do some cool things there. So once this class is initialized, you can actually use the methods inside. So with this, you can do startup dot, and then you can see like you have access to the methods for the class you created. So for this, let's do name CEO, and then let's say we want to update the CEO. Oops, update CEO. So now let's say like Paul Meyer got into some trouble with the press, and now they have a new CEO called let's see, Jenny Ice Cream. Okay, and then if we call this startup.name CEO, we'll see the actual CEO name changed. So let's run this. Python classes.py, which is the name of my file. And you can see I was able to change the internal state or the CEO variable inside the class. And let's do this here. I think do this. Let me just change that. Okay, 1 second. This will be easier. So, string formatting, I just want to correct that little thing right there. Okay, so you can see that I was able to update the state within the class, and if we were able to call the other things, which you can see right here, so let's say I wanted to print the startup .num of employees, I can do that. So you can see that I can check that data as well. And the great thing is, like, let's say you wanted to create like a new business and put it to a variable, you no longer have to do like all these same properties and all these same methods. You can just have it use the same abstraction or blueprint. So let's say you want to do now a corporate variable. So corporate equals business. Let's just call it Corporaton. I think that sounds like a very corporate name. Let's say the CEO is Sane. I think that's a pretty interesting name. Sane Top or Sane Topher. And let's say the corporate structure, let's say 350,000 employees. Let's do let's do the website as corporated, and then let's just say B2B sales. Okay, so now if I were to initialize this, this new class has all this information, and I could actually just corporate dot name CEO. You can see that these two objects, they were initialized with the business class. They were able to initialize all these properties by inputting name right here, the CEO variable right here. So this goes to this variable or input, and then you just assign that input to the class or object's self-defined property CEO, and then every other property here you have attached methods which you can call with dot notation. So it's a lot of great stuff. So you can kind of see like how you can organize all your code, like where it's just a collection of these properties and behaviors, and use it over and over again if you know you're going to use a lot of the same type of objects. So if you know you're going to work with a lot of the same type of data, you can just create classes to reflect that. And actually, remember this little global variable that's common to all businesses. So it's not specified like it is with these initialized variables here. So if I do startup dot, let's do print startup dot, startup dot make money. Okay, and then down here I'll just do corporate dot make money too. Both will be true because both are common. So if you kind of think, let's say you created like a class of cars, so they would all have 4 wheels. So that would be something that would be global, that you didn't have to be specified. So if you want to do like kind of like those global or like common variables or properties, just have it outside of this dunder and knit method right here. Okay, so let's run that again. And you can see that both true, so they're both common. And let's say that another great thing about classes and these types of objects are that you can inherit. So you can create like specific classes that inherit from this class. What I mean by that is, let's say you created a new class called venture, you can inherit all the properties and all the methods from this business class right here. So all you have to do is class, your new class, and then open up parentheses, and then put in that class you want to inherit from. So what I mean by inherit. So if let's just say for this, if I just created, let's say, a third company, let's call it Devtopia. Devtopia equals venture, and let's just do Dev Heaven. Let's say the CEO is Tom Skills. Let's just say that we have 12 employees. Let's say the website is devtopia.com, and then let's say the industry is developer tools. So because venture inherits from business, essentially I have the same init method, so I have the same variables I can initialize. I'm going to have the same make money common or global variable, and then I'll have these same methods too. So just to show you that, let me run devtopia.nameCEO. Name CEO. So with this, you should expect to see Tom Skills at the bottom. So you can see that, like, even though I have nothing inside this new child class, so this would be the parent. So essentially, I'm inheriting all the properties from the parent class. This venture is the child class inheriting from business. But the great thing about this inheritance and these classes in general is that you can override a lot of the properties and also methods. So let's say you wanted to overwrite this functionality. You can either extend it or you can just update it. So let's say with venture, we want something different with name CEO. So let's do name CEO self, and then here let's just say CEO. And then let's do some string formatting. Is unavailable. He is on a ticket. So now just what I do there is self.ceo. And then when I call .nameCEO here, you should expect to see that string change, or the method change, because we updated the behavior for the child. So that's a really cool thing. Like, let's say you wanted all like this functionality from your parent class, but the only thing you want to do is update this method. Then you can just inherit it and then write a new method in your child class like we did right here. So we're going to see this new sentence at the bottom. Okay, and you can see that we were able to overwrite the functionality of the original name_CEO method. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do here. And one kind of little tip for you guys is classes are going to come up a lot in your programming interviews, and then you just programming with Python in general. You should get really familiar just being able to write these classes and objects by hand, because it's going to help you realize how it's structured, how you can use them, and it's going to make you a little bit more calm and relaxed, and you're going to know more deeply how to create these classes if you not only like type it out and follow along with this video, but also I just write it by hand. So like, what did we learn about classes? Well, classes, you start with a class keyword, you name whatever you want, you initialize it with a dunder init method. Each method within a class has to have this self parameter. When you're in the dunder init, you can initialize new variables and take in inputs like we did down here. And let's say that you wanted all the properties with a certain class, but you wanted to update or extend the functionality. You can actually inherit from it. So you just create a new class, open parentheses, close parentheses, and within it the parent class you want to inherit from. And in order to update or extend that functionality, if you want to update it, you just name the same function and then just give it a different behavior. In order to call methods, you just use dot notation, so dot whatever the method is, And you can see here we initialize the class by just using the class name, open parentheses, and then put the necessary inputs there. So you can see even though we had 3 different companies, we were able to initialize or instantiate these classes. So just basically create these businesses with different information and basically make it specific. And even though it had different properties, we were able to give it kind of a general blueprint of properties they can use, and then also behaviors we expect from them too. And the great thing is, like as you're building classes, as we saw with this child class right here, you can modify or extend some functionality from a parent class, or if you're just like programming, you just add more behaviors and methods within the class. So a lot of great stuff we can do with class. And let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. And yeah, please let me know what type of topic in Python you want me to have next. But I hope this was useful, and it was a lot of fun for me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers!